Alright guys, so the next pattern we're going to look at is the Singleton pattern, which is actually a manifestation of the module pattern. A singleton object is an immediate anonymous function, and it can only return one instance of an object at a time. Alright, so repeated calls to the constructor will just return the same instance. And like the module pattern, it maintains a private reference which nothing from the outside can access. Now, an example of why you may want to use a singleton is maybe you only want, for instance, one user object created at a time, maybe a logged in user. It would prevent you from having two users from being created at once. Now, oftentimes singletons are frowned upon because they give you a global point of access rather than embracing encapsulation. And that bothers a lot of programmers, and they can also be kind of hard to debug. I think singletons do have their place, but I haven't used them too much. I actually don't have much experience with this pattern at all, but I wanted to include it in this section because it is a well-known pattern in singletons. They don't just relate to JavaScript, but to many programming languages and just programming in general. So let's go ahead and let me give you a simple example here. So I just have a blank app.js file, and we're going to create a variable called singleton, and we're going to set this to our iffy. So we'll put our function, and let's create a variable called instance, and we're going to have a function called create instance. This isn't a very practical example, but like I said, I don't have much experience with it. So we'll create an object variable, and we'll set it to a new object, and we'll just pass in a string here, and we'll just say object instance. Okay, and then we'll return that object. Alright, so now down here we're going to have our return, just like the module pattern that I showed you in the last video. And we're going to have our getInstance function here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say if there's not an instance, then we want instance to equal create instance. And then under the if statement, we're going to return the instance. All right, and then down here, what I'm going to do is instantiate an object. I'm going to call it instance A. Did I spell that right? Instance A equals, and then we'll say singleton dot get instance. Okay, so if we go ahead and console.log instance A and save, you'll see we're going to get a string, which is a primitive, and it says object instance. And I mean, this doesn't have to be a string. We could do that. That probably makes more sense. All right, so if I try and instantiate another object from this singleton, so if I say instance B equals singleton.instance, and then I compare these two, so let's see, I'm going to comment that out, and let's console.log, and we're going to say instance A is equal to instance B, and save, and you see we get true. All right, so we can never have more than one instance. Even if we try, it's just going to give us back the same instance. All right, so that's going to be it. I'm not going to go much further into this because, like I said, I don't have a lot of experience with this pattern, and I don't want to give you any wrong information. Just know that you can't have more than one instance with this pattern. All right, so in the next video, guys, we're going to take a look at the factory pattern, which is a pattern used to create objects, multiple objects.